Hey parents, welcome to the Mommy Pod, where we keep it real about parenthood. The joy, the chaos, and everything in between. I'm your host, a single mom, educator, and everyday woman learning to give herself grace while chasing her dreams. Whether you're folding laundry, stuck in traffic, or sneaking in 5 minutes of peace, this space is your reminder that you're not alone. And you're doing better than you think. So, grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a drink, take a deep breath, and let's get into today's episode. All right, hi everyone. Welcome back to the Mommy Pod. Today's episode is for the women and men who are carrying everything. I will record your intro later. Today, I'm joined by Jessica Sanchez, a mother of three, a mental health advocate, nonprofit founder, and the CEO of Daughters of Both Sons. Jessica's work focuses on trauma-informed mental health support for underserved women and families. And today, we're going to talk about it. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. Welcome to the Mommy Pod.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jessica, your titles in advocacy work. Who are you as a mother?
So I am a mother of three. I have an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So big gaps in a sense between, or, reasonable amount of gaps between the three. I am one of those mothers that wants my kids to be independent, but I have both of like an affirmative, be independent, pushing them to be their best selves type of mom, but also I try my best to be involved emotionally, especially nowadays in kids and all the education that we're getting with mental health. I try to be very prevalent and present, especially with my oldest, as her being a female and hormones and things going on. There's a lot of discussions that we have that I have to sit down and speak to her about, and just making sure that there's a balance, right? Being the parent, but also being mindful and aware that we don't own our children. Yes, we're supposed to love our children, but they're their own individuals. And the best we can do is guide them as they grow and hope that everything we teach them, they take that on with them as they continue on their path.
All right, that's beautiful. So, what inspired you to create Daughters of Both Sons?
So basically, I had, some experience working in the nonprofit sector before I started my organization. But, there were just some differences in that other organization. And I told myself, why can't I create something from lived experience, especially with all the systemic barriers to access to care for Black and Latina women. So I wanted to build something that was meaningful to me. I love community work, and even in the other organization that I was a part of, my focus and mission was on the betterment of others. But I also wanted to build something personal to me, something that I can inter connect with from lived experience. And I wanted to make sure, as someone that considers herself Afro Latina, that I was representing both Latina women and Black women, right? Because there's so much when we're talking about systems, right? There's so many disparities, I should say, and there's lack in access to care from culturally competent um, mental health counselors, healthcare providers, and etc. So we want to make sure, and I wanted to make sure that I made that easily accessible, and where not only am I providing the resources to these women that are coming to our organization and aligning them with culturally competent therapists, but that we're also helping them with additional resources and also um, focusing on their inner healing as the journey progresses. So we're definitely into it's just not pairing you with the therapist. We're here to be on your journey with you hand by hand, and we have various programs that that inter connect right with the mission that we have going on, which we call healing circles. So I just wanted to have something that was personal to me based on trauma and experiences that I faced in the mental health care sector and also in healthcare. And I wanted to be able to bridge those gaps.
That's a really great path. So would you say that motherhood directed your path and definitely gave you this um drive for this mission?
Oh, of course. I mean, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for my three kids. Because they have been a big motivator for me to keep pushing forward. And I know that sounds so cliche. So many people state that, that phase of saying, hey, I'm doing, I want to be the best version of me for my kids. But I genuinely, because of everything that I've gone through past, my past in my life, having my daughter, the oldest, was a real wake up call for me. And then once I started having my other kids, it's just started to place a mirror of reflection on myself, right? And I think as a parent and as a mother, when you have children, they tend to be a reflection almost. So you start seeing things in yourself within them that comes out that reminds you of you and things that you could interconnect with your own childhood. So definitely being a mother has definitely shaped, my experience overall as an individual, but has made me want to break these systemic barriers for my kids as they get older in the times that we're living in.
Yeah, so what were some of those moments that pushed you towards advocacy and mental health work?
So crazy part is one of the first times that I went to a therapist, and I hope we can, I can say the word, but I'll just say it right. She called me a bitch, and it was a white woman. So that was not, she told me I was acting like a bitch. And I know of many people that have had not the best experiences when they're pairing with a mental health clinician. And that in itself could have been the end for me, right? I could have been like, I don't need therapy, especially at that point in my life. I was going through a divorce. There was so many things that were happening, and I was trying to figure out who I was as an individual. So as I kept going on and getting, to know myself and getting to know more about me in my journey with trauma informed care and going through domestic violence and just addiction and other things that I went through, I saw how prevalent mental health is, especially culturally, because we're told to not talk about what's going on, right? In our cultures, we're told to either pray about it or we're told to you're strong enough that whatever happens in the household stays in the household, and that's it. And I think, from there, it just made me realize that as more advocacy work was coming into the pipeline about mental health, and then all of the other intersections of finding culturally competent care, it really helped me develop in my mind that this is a broader and bigger issue that needs to be talked about, and it is not talked about as much as it should be. And I wanted to place that advocacy work, especially, for example, in places like rural America, right? Because when we look at subdivisions and we look at cities, we can see different types of programs for underserved individuals. But how about the folks that aren't, right, in areas where they have those resources, or they live in certain states that might not carry those resources for them? So, yes, we're focused in Myrtle Beach, but we serve nationwide, even though we're in South Carolina. But I wanted this to be a organization that definitely hyper focused on helping underserved women overcome and make them feel like, hey, you're not alone. And finding culturally competent care is essential.
Wow, yeah, that is so important. And I hate that that happened to you with the therapist and but at the same time it catapulted you into creating this organization, it sounds like. So,
Oh yeah, that was one of my main experiences, but I think it was a combination
uh-huh.
of everything I went through, right? Because I went through a lot of traumatic experiences in my life that led me to get to the point where I told myself, I'm tired of investing in other people, but not putting that effort within myself. And
Mm,
I just had this wake up moment where I'm like, you know what? Everything that I've poured into relationships and others, why am I not investing that in myself?
yeah.
So I just had a moment of clarity, and then I started getting to know more about myself, pushing to finish 2 degrees at once, working on an MSW also. And I don't know, I grew as a person, and that just pushed me to, this is something. I've always been a determined individual, but this is something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to maximize the impact as much as I could.
Yeah. And I love that you are giving a space for women of color who are often misunderstood in traditional spaces.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we see that a lot for sure.
So the weight of being the strong one. One thing that you said that really stood out to me was feeling emotionally overwhelmed while trying to show up for everyone else. What did that season look like for you?
Oh,
Yeah.
that that was tough in itself, because I think, right, a lot of us, well, yeah, a lot of us, right? And this takes a lot of work to get to this point, to realize when you have codependency issues, even with parents or other individuals in your life, and you tend to people please everyone. And that for me, I mean, it was just situation after situation of acknowledging and telling myself, why am I people pleasing everyone? It's like I literally had a moment, and I'm not, ashamed to say, like, I've worked a lot on my mental health. It's been a journey because of my own experiences. And it just came to a point where I opened my eyes and I'm like, okay, I'm focusing too much on others, but I've left everything that I've aspired to do on the sidelines. And we all have different types of fulfillment, right? For some, it could be being a mother, for some, and having a family. Others, it could be, a religious fulfillment. and for others, it can be their career. And for me, as a person, I'm very career driven. So that in itself, I knew was going to feel my purpose. And I was stuck. I was tired of being stuck, right, in the same predicament. And I'm one of those people that, hey, if you want to make a change, then take action to make the change. So, and I'm very much one of those people that will tell you not everyone can go on the journey with you, and not everyone's meant to go on the journey that you're about to embark on. So, yes, I had to get rid of various friends, negative influences, right? Separate myself with things that were disturbing my peace or people around me, to really take time to reflect on me. And like I tell people, healing is non-linear. We're consistently evolving as people. We're consistently getting to know ourselves and growing into who we want to become and who we will become. And even, right, even who we want to become, sometimes we can surprise ourselves because we're always learning about ourselves consistently. So it just came to a point where I just got tired of from situation to situation. I'm focusing on others and right, how their projections about me were affecting me, when I knew deep inside I had the capacity and potential to oversee all, that negativity. So that's just one of those things where, I'm telling you, the beginning of 2025 was a real eye opener for me. I moved from Florida to South Carolina. I made various changes. And I kind of just, I don't know, it was like an awakening, like, whoa, like I opened my eyes, it's like an epiphany. And I'm like, no, I just have to start focusing on me. And, and that took me working on my mental health for, the years that I did, and evolving as a person. So I think the beginning of 2025 was the real eye opener moment, where I had that epiphany, where I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I said, this is my season, this is my time, and I'm going to put all the energy that I focus on others, on on me, myself, and what I really want to do. And then that developed into getting to know what I'm passionate about. And from there, it just blossomed and it grew, and here we are.
Do your kids love stories, colors, castles, and adventures? Well, Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle is more than just a storybook. It's an interactive journey where little readers explore colors while building imagination. From the sunny yellows of the Golden Hall to the sparkling blue sapphire shoes that she wears. Each page bursts with magic. Plus, it comes with a coloring book and activity pages, so the fun continues even after the story. It's perfect for toddlers, preschoolers, and early readers. Turn rainy days into rainbow days with Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle. It's the perfect way to teach your little ones colors while sparkling their imagination. It's available now on Amazon KDP. Beautiful. It's amazing how we can go through so many different seasons and turn out okay. It's just, we have to know that it's going to turn out okay on the other side.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about mental health and communities of color. I really want to have this conversation. I think it's really important. So, why do you think that mental health conversations can feel so taboo in some communities?
I would say it's literally a cultural stigma, right? In a lot of our communities, we've been told, um, first off, right, we've been told that whatever happens in the household stays in the household, but also, um, even back to up to the 70s, if you were to tell someone that you were going through depression or you were having anxiety, folks were sent into the loony bin. Um, and that wasn't that long ago. So I think the reason why we're having these stigmas is because we need to break the stigmas themselves, right? And with advocacy education, I think we've gotten to a point and we're getting to a point where we're making much progress. I think this is intergenerational. We've all been taught that we have to be strong, especially as women of color. We always have to hold the whole world on the back of our shoulders, and we're taught, right, to be strong women and hold the whole world on our shoulders, but kind of put ourselves to the sidelines. And we're living in a survival mode instinct. So you're fighting with your fight or flight, if that makes sense. So we really have to get to and I don't want to say get to the point because we are there with so many organizations, but we have to continue to make to do the work where we're constantly advocating, educating, challenging our way of thinking because we're not always going to have all the answers. And I also think, and I say this as someone that is Christian myself, right? You can have your faith community because I see this in many um, communities of of Latino culture and Black culture as well. You can have your faith, you can have your community within your faith. There's nothing wrong with that, but mental health is very important. And we also have to differentiate mental illness versus what mental health means because I think there's a big confusion on mental health and mental illness, right? They're two completely separate things. And you having a mental health condition, which let's be honest, we've all have suffered from depression, anxiety, stress, burnout. These are things that we can all come across at one time or another in our lives versus mental illness where somebody's dealing with a specific type of disorder, people label it as combining both as you're a crazy person. And that doesn't mean you're a crazy person. I just think in our cultures, it's very taboo to worry about the mental health. And we in this generation, and I'm seeing this as we're always having various talks, especially with our organization, we're trying to break these stigmas in this new generation to let others know, hey, it shouldn't be taboo to think about your mental health or focus on your mental health. It doesn't make you weak to focus on your mental health. It actually shows the strength, right, of worrying about your state of mind because mental health is healthcare. Until the ACA came around, that's when we started seeing mental health as a benefit, right? In healthcare plans. So we're definitely breaking as much as we can those stigmas. And I think as we continue, and as we grow with this educational factor, this is going to break many stigmas within our communities of color. And, I just hope to see more people, as I am seeing, just continue to be more open to mental health and mental wellness.
Yes, that's so important. It's so important. And um I had this conversation with my aunt yesterday because she's of a different generation and she was saying the exact same thing about how they grew up not believing in it. And after my grandmother, her mother, passed away, she signed up for therapy and she has been going and she loves it. And I think it's really helped lift her spirits in this dark time because she was her mother's full-time caregiver.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that it is so important to know that it's okay. It's okay to go speak with someone. It's okay to take care of yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure,
Yeah.
100%, 100%, and I'm with you because I'm seeing those changes even within my own family,
Mm,
of it, being sort of a taboo type of thing to do to now, you know, be there's more acceptance, right? And I
right.
think we're working with the older generation because I am seeing more, and especially Gen Z, I'm seeing them being more, oh, they're very self-aware. They're very, it's when they feel something, they voice it, and they're very in tune with their mental health and who they are as
Mhm.
people overall. But yeah, I think we're definitely working on that, and changes are coming for sure.
Yeah, this newer generation is so inspiring. It is I'm a high school teacher and I get so inspired every day just seeing how well aware they are, self-aware, and how much they advocate for themselves. It's so important.
Yeah, even things that we wouldn't do in our day, right? We
Right.
wouldn't be able to, or even challenge authority. And this is and I don't even want to say challenge authority. My thing is, if, like I tell my own kids, right? If something doesn't seem right to you, you're allowed to ask questions, right? Don't ever feel like any question is too stupid to ask. And you're your own best advocate, right? Because if you don't advocate for yourself, who will, right? And obviously, as parents, we want to advocate for our kids, and we have to, right? Because they're vulnerable, they're minors, and they're still developing. But we also need to show our kids how important self advocacy is, so when they become adults, they can also show that trait. They can
Yeah.
exhibit that.
Yeah. So I have to ask, how do we teach our children emotional safety when we weren't always given that ourselves growing up?
So one thing I think is very important is to be mindful, aware, and present. Because I know growing up, you know, for me, right, especially my dad, he was very, very hard and strict, and we would get ass whoopings for every little thing. And just looking back, these are things that our parents they were taught, so it gets passed down, and then they're dealing with unresolved emotions that they haven't dealt with from their childhood. So they only have done what they've known, what's best based on what they were shown, right? So the way we could show up is by breaking that same cycle that we've been taught, being present with our children, being vulnerable with our children, showing them that it's not a weakness to even apologize. Because I think certain folks think because you're the parent, you have to be always strong and you can't show your emotions. And we're doing a disservice to our children because in that point we're conditioning them to hold everything in, and vulnerability is extremely important. So I would for sure say being able to be vulnerable with your children, and when we do make mistakes, because we're all human beings, even as parents we are going to make mistakes with our kids, be be able to apologize. There's nothing wrong with showing, hey, I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have reacted like that, but this is why I reacted this way. And this is how I can show up better going forward. So, we have to be mindful when it comes to these things with with our kids, with our children, and showing them that, hey, it doesn't make you weak to talk about mental health, checking in on them, how they're doing, having an open space with them as well on what's going on in their lives. My daughter, she tells me all of the dramas and things that go on in her personal life with school. And I sit down and I talk to her and I guide her. And I also, we're big on therapy here. So even, getting to know who she is as a person, I think is very important. And me showing her the importance of mental health and what it means to take care of your mental health. And also, I would say, I remember going through so many things, right, as even a teenager, just a woman, right, with hormones and changes. And I didn't know how to deal with those changes within myself. And yes, while my mother was there, it was never really talked about. So I was dealing with these emotions of anxiety and depression, or the mood swings up and down, because you're still trying to figure yourself out. So we have to educate our kids, right? When they're going through certain situations, it's okay not to be okay, but they have to learn how to verbalize, right, when they're not feeling okay. So I would say definitely being able to educate them on how to express themselves. And if they see certain symptoms, for there to be an open door policy when they could come to you and they don't feel ashamed for how they're feeling.
Open communication, that is so important. Yeah. I feel like that's a very good my daughter's singing for us. I feel like that's very good advice and very important, because that's something that we did not always have. Being able
Yeah.
to emotionally open up ourselves and express ourselves to our family might not have always been a safe space. So thank you for that advice for us to be able to do with our children. You're
A
raising
100%.
you're raising children while pouring so much into your community and building meaningful work. How do you balance motherhood with advocacy work emotionally?
So I have to check myself, right? Because I'm a human being, and there's days, especially working in the nonprofit sector, burnout is a real thing because you're wearing multiple hats. Not only am I dealing with the nonprofit partnerships, interns that are under me, right? I'm also working, and I'm also dealing with my kids and with, other things in social work. So when I get burned out, there's days where I have to literally put things down or tell myself, I'm getting too overwhelmed. I need a moment. Um, if you need to step back, you have to give yourself permission to step back, because if you're not your best self, you can't show up for others. And that, taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally as well. So, like I said, healing is nonlinear. So these are things that we always continuously have to continue to check ourselves on, because I think even the folks that preach about it, they go through it consistently as well. So just being able to give yourself permission to relax, to rest, even if it's an hour a day, right, or a day a week, or just giving yourself some time, some me time, right, some self-care time. You have to, because dealing with so many things, right, trying to help others while also being hyper aware of your surroundings, your children, and what they're going through, it's a lot to take on as an individual. So I definitely, it's not an easy fleet, it's not an easy task, but having a strong community around you and support and being able to give yourself that permission to step back when the time is needed is extremely important.
Living with ADHD means cleaning and organizing can feel impossible, but it doesn't have to. My book, Living with ADHD Cleaning and Organizing, is built for real life with step by step systems, ADHD friendly routines, and realistic hacks. It helps you create calm in your space without the overwhelm. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Whether you're a busy mom, busy parent, student, or professional, this book will help you reset your home and your mind. Thank you for that advice. Step back when you need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
It's okay, trust me. I have three. My oldest, she's out there. Like, I get it. There, I get how kids can be.
Okay. Oh, all right. Let's see. Do you ever struggle that I'll skip that question. I'm sorry. I was gonna ask if you ever struggle with feeling guilty with balancing everything, but that's
Well, actually, no, we can touch on that because I actually think that is a great question because at times I have felt guilty on whether I'm putting too much of my energy, right, in one space and not giving it to my kids because I have an 11-year-old that's dealing with all the changes that she's going through. But I also have a son that he's 7 and he's autistic, but he's high functioning, and then I have a 2-year old, right? So at times I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too much, right? But then when my kids, right, and they come to me, they tell me how much they love me, especially my second, no one can touch me, or not even my husband. Like, he doesn't like my husband hugging me or kissing me, even though it's his dad, right? He gets super jealous. He's very protective over me. And even my daughter, right? She's always telling me, Mom, thank you for always being there and protecting me. She wrote me a letter, and it's actually Mother's Day tomorrow. She gave it to me yesterday. And she told me, and it hit me and it got me emotional, because she told me, Mom, thank you for always defending me and not letting others be rude to me, right? Because there's been some situations with parents, or, if something happens and I have to put that in place, then I also have to check my own daughter if she's not in the right. But also, my daughter knows that she could come to me with anything, and I'm always going to protect her at the end of the day. So, and yeah, at times I'm like, hey, am I doing too much? But you know what? My daughter has told me, I went to school and they asked what everyone's parents, what they do. And she told them how I have 2 degrees, how I own my own nonprofit, right? And I'm doing my master's and working full time and all of these community events that I do. And she was saying how, like, everybody was like impressed, and like it was like a flex for her, right? So it's
well,
one of those.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, yeah, and that made me feel good, right? Because
Mm,
then I'm like, okay, what I'm doing, she's seeing that, and that's important.
yeah.
So yeah, so it takes the guilt away a little bit, but it's normal. It's normal to feel guilty when you're juggling a million things as a mom.
Yeah, we're all trying to juggle a million things and we're all exhausted trying to build something better for our kids and keep them alive.
100%.
Yeah. So let's go on to learning to ask for help. You said something powerful in your write up that strength is not about doing everything alone. Was it difficult for you to find help?
Yeah, so my problem is that I'm type A. So I struggle with this sometimes. I think that I'm like Superwoman and I can take everything on the whole world on my shoulders. I'm one of those people that when I tell you we got this, and I'm gonna find a way where there's no way. And so yeah, so and for me, being type A, just thinking I'm Superwoman, being able to or put everyone on the back of my shoulders and carry the whole world. I had to also realize that it takes literally a village. And I know people say that when it comes to raising kids, but that also goes into if that also applies, I should say, when you're running a business, especially nonprofit work. At this time I have 8 interns under me, and
Wow.
I knew, yeah, I knew that at this, if I want, if I wanted to execute my vision, this no way am I going to be able to do this by myself, right? So I had to create partnerships, ideally at that, with a community of like-minded individuals, as well as being able to have that support, even if that was just having interns that all played their part. Because, as a nonprofit leader, you're wearing multiple hats consistently. So, and I'm like, I have to let go a little bit, right? Because the burnout gets real. So I'm like, okay, I can't do all of this, and I have to let the reins go, and I have to trust more. And I have, and it's an operation, especially when you talk about dealing with clients, therapists, but then the partnership side, right, with other organizations and other speaking gigs and things that I'm doing, being the face of the organization. So it's definitely a machine, for sure. But I tell all of my interns, I want this to be a safe space. We're here involving and changing systems, and as we scale, the business scales as well, and operations do also. So anything that you guys see that we can implement and add onto the nonprofit, and you have an idea on how we can operationally continue to support our systems, let me know. I want everyone's voices, I should say, to be heard, and I consistently let them know that, and I let them tell me whatever they need to tell me, and feel like it's a safe space for them to, come to me. So yeah, letting go is hard, but it's essential if you want to build something meaningful.
Yeah, that's very smart. That's good that's really great that you were able to get interns to help you and move the business forward. And I'm glad you were able to. Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Building safe spaces. Can you tell everyone more about Daughters of Both Sons and the work that you're doing?
Yes. So the work that we're doing at Daughters of Both Sons, the main thing, right, our focus is to help women, right, underserved women of color, Black and Latina women, with trauma-informed care. And the way that we do that is by aligning them with culturally aligned therapists, but there's so many other things that go into that, right? So, first we pair them, right? They come in, we do an intake form. We also do resource allocation. So what that means is if they're also going through domestic violence, they need to find a food pantry, job support services, um, immigration support, legal support, whatever it is, we help to get them aligned and connected to those services, which are extremely essential. So that's part, right? The culturally aligned care, the therapist, making those connections to the resource allocation. And then I'm big on networking with other organizations in order to bring advocacy and also education. So we do many virtual events, and even here in Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, I'm hosting events as well. I'm partnered with NAMI also, so, we have in the past co-facilitated, and we talk about a variety of different topics. I mean, we've touched about financial literacy and financial stressors, how financial stressors can affect your mental health, loving yourself as well. We've touched on that also, and having testimonies from other women and experiences that they've been through. We also have an app on the App Store as well for women to get connected with one another and to help with the resource allocation. And then we've also as well, we have what else? We're about to do a big community resource fair, right? Um, Here in Myrtle Beach on June 13th as well, with over 70 vendors and organizations for the community, and it's all on nonprofit healthcare partners, a marketplace for the community, and then for kids, right? Bounce house, face painting, balloon twisters. So I'm very involved in the community in that way as well locally. But also just partnering with other, like even universities like Coastal Carolina University and their gender studies program, and bringing those type of workshops to these places and things of that sort. So we're doing a variety of different things. Even recently, we had like breaking stigma for Latinos, and then we're having another one for Black women specifically in August, where we're doing a panel with other therapists as well, and social workers and things of that sort. So we're doing a lot of work. I'm very, very big on education as well. So I wanted the nonprofit to focus on three pillars. One, the culturally aligned care with the mental health, therapist, also the resource allocation, and we have MSW interns that help and they take clients on as um, they're them being their case managers and making sure that they have found assistance and just grabbing them hand by hand as they go along, and then educating and advocacy and doing the work on the ground. And also, we try to make it accessible and recording virtually as well. So there's a lot of things that we're doing and that we're a part of.
Amazing. You're doing such great work for the community. Where can our listeners find you? I have posted your information in our show notes, but just in case one is just listening, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find all of the work that we're doing, and that's where you'll find me at too, because that's what I'm immersed in. At Daughters of Both Sons, that's SUNS. They can go to our website as well, daughtersofbothsons.org. Um, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We're on all three platforms consistently. We're involved, giving folks information, educational resources. And then we have an app on both the Google App Store and the App Store for Apple. So you can also download our app. It's free. There's courses too that we're putting in there and uploading. And then we have a YouTube channel as well, where we're uploading talks and things that we have going on as well. And it's also called At Daughters of Both Sons also. So that's where you can find all the work that we're doing for the community.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your work with us. Um,
No, Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. We will I put all of your information in our show notes and so our listeners can find you.
Thank you.
Before we go, I just want to say thank you. The Mommy Pod is built in the middle of real life. Work, kids, laundry, rebuilding, and dreaming. And every time you listen, share, or support what we create here, it truly matters. If this episode spoke to you, one of the best ways to keep this podcast going is by supporting our Mommy Pod products. From our children's books and activity books to our calming sprays and digital downloads designed for moms and parents and families. Everything you purchase goes directly back into keeping the show alive. And if you can't purchase right now, sharing this episode with another parent means just as much. Thank you for being here.